Colleen Little and Lyndsay Centrowitz, welcome to the Running Effect podcast. How are you guys doing this afternoon?
Great. Thank you for having us. We're really excited.
Yeah, super excited to be here with you and chat about things we're excited about that are coming up this summer.
I have to ask both of you, Colleen, I don't think I've ever asked you this on the podcast. Lyndsay, I've not spoken to you before this, so I haven't asked you on the podcast. I think part of my ignorance here, when you go to PT school, you technically become a doctor. How often do you hear Dr. Lyndsay and Dr. Colleen? Do your patients call you that?
More as a joke.
Yeah.
Once they find out that we actually are technically doctors, they're like, I could have been calling you doctor this whole time. And I'm like, well, I mean, I guess, but like PTs don't usually do that. We kind of just scoot it under the rug, which I don't know. Sometimes I think we should promote it a little bit more as a profession, but on other times it's just kind of the personality of most PTs.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because we obviously go to school to acquire our doctorate, and we do graduate being Dr. whomever, but very rarely do you come across a PT who practices that actually goes by doctor. And it almost catches you off guard when a patient calls you doctor. So yeah, like Colleen said, it's sometimes they do it jokingly, but it is a lot of schooling, so we probably should promote it more. But yeah, we both just go by Colleen and Lyndsay.
I think for whatever reason, people think that PTs don't have to go through a crazy amount of school. I know you guys did from my conversations with you, Colleen. Can you take people through the general timeline of school, where you guys went to school, and all the technicalities of becoming a PT? Because I don't think it's appreciated enough. Like, I think people think it's like you go to 4 years and then 1 year PT school and you're good, but it's way more extensive than that, which is good. Definitely. I don't want someone sticking dry needles in me that
that hasn't exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's the 4 of undergrad where you can kind of like narrow down to get your bachelor's, which is typically in a science related field. Although I would say I definitely had some classmates that it wasn't, and they had made career changes. So you do that 4 years, and then it's a 3-year doctorate program, and the application process is pretty intense. You have to have a lot of hours accumulated of time in clinics before you get in, and they typically have to be a wide variety of hours in different settings of physical therapy. And then the interview process is also pretty demanding. Like, I went to Pacific University in Oregon, and at the time it was the only PT school in Oregon, and I think we had 500 applicants, and they interviewed 90 of us, and my class size was 38. So it's a rigorous process. Things have changed a little bit now with more electronic applications and stuff. And it may have even been a little bit for Lyndsay when she went through school. But yeah, and then you do 3 years, and the first year is 40 hours a week of class time, basically. And you're just in the classroom studying on top of that. And then the second and third year gets to be a little bit more fun, where you start to go out on like clinical rotations. And sometimes each program's a little different, but sometimes you'll spend a month in a clinic, or some programs have you spend 4 months in a clinic once you're in like your third year. And then there's typically kind of a big thesis or capstone project at the end of everyone's program. And yeah, and then after that, it doesn't stop. There's a lot of Con Ed requirements. If you want to go pretty far in the profession, a lot of people will either do a residency program or do like a specialty board exam. So like I became an orthopedic clinical specialist, and Lyndsay can kind of tell you about more of her specialties too. But yeah, it's a lot of work, a rigorous process, but definitely worth it. I mean, I've had no regrets in my profession, and just feel like there's a lot of variety to what you can do once you're out of school.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's exactly it. It's 4 years of undergrad and then 3 years of a doctorate. So Colleen nailed the schooling. I think what people also don't necessarily understand about PT is there's so many specialties that you can dive into. So it doesn't have to just be orthopedic. You can work in acute care and work on like a cardiopulm floor. You can work in the ICU. You can go into pediatrics. You can go into ortho. You can work with geriatrics. And that's just like touching the surface. You can go into public health, which is what I do. So not only do we have to learn all of those basics in school, but like Colleen said, then you can leave school and decide to like further specialize in one of those areas. And I think a lot of people don't know that you there's even PTs that work in the ICU. There's even PTs that work in pelvic health or work in pediatrics. And, there's obviously people go into PT a lot of times for working in sports and they want to be in sports. So yeah, it's a lot of school. And then on top of that, it's a lot of specialization to become really good at whatever you decide you want to be good at. So I went to Creighton in Omaha, Nebraska, and it was a 3-year doctorate program on top of undergrad. And since then, I now specialize in like pelvic health and female athletes and pregnancy and postpartum, which is a lot of fun. And it allows, Colleen and I to work together with a lot of athletes as well, which, that kind of segues us into like how we collaborated and met down our path. But PT is a blast. I wouldn't change my career for the world, and anyone who thinks they want to go into PT, I would highly encourage it. And to just keep your mind and your eyeballs open for different kind of avenues that you can explore.
I want to hear about how Colleen Little met Lyndsay Centrowitz, probably before you were Centrowitz, from both your perspectives. When was the first time you heard of the other one, and when did you guys formally get introduced to one another?
This is actually like way more of a complicated story than I think you realize.
It really is.
But
let's hear it.
Yeah, we'll try to give the condensed version. So, long story short is Dave McHenry, who's the PT for Union Athletics Club, is kind of the cornerstone of all of this. And him and I met when I was in college, and he had a clinic and I did an internship with him. And we kept in touch and became good friends. And I shadowed him as the build up to the 2012 Olympics when he was working with Mo Farah and Galen Rupp, and did a lot of shadowing with him. And then we worked for the same company once I was at a PT school. So we were colleagues then. And in 2016, he was a big part of promoting me within the company to be the clinic director of the clinic that we ran out at the Nike World headquarters in Beaverton. And so at that time, I was the clinic director in 2016 out in Beaverton at Nike, and Dave still was the director at his clinic in North Portland at Pace. And I probably don't have the years right, so Lyndsay will be able to fill this in when she does. But at some point in time, Dave told me, he's like, hey, I'm interviewing this awesome person, this awesome girl that I've never met anyone else since I met you that is going to like be comparable. And I was like, okay, Dave, whatever. Like, you always like kind of like love to like build people up. He's like, no, she's so rad. You're going to love her. And he was interviewing Lyndsay for a spot and ended up hiring her as a PT in his clinic. And I know Dave, and he's very picky about who he hires, and hiring the right people is very important to him. And that's like one of the things that he really helped me with when I became a clinic director, is just being very specific about who you bring into your team. And so I knew that if he was going to hire Lyndsay to be at his clinic, that Lyndsay was going to be an awesome PT, but more importantly, an awesome person, and was going to be a really good like personality fit with his group. And so we met at some point around then, but it was like pretty brief. And at the time I was hiring for someone at Nike and really needed a PT. And I needed somebody I had just lost a PT that had moved, and he had about 5 or 6 years of experience and was like just one of the best PTs to work with. So I was really nervous about filling that spot. And Lyndsay reached out to me over email, and she's like, hey, we don't know each other that well yet, but like I have a friend that I went to high school with, I believe it was, right? High school and he is about to graduate from PT school. I know that you needed to hire someone with more years of experience, but I think he would be worth interviewing. And I was like super hesitant. I reached out to him anyway, and he hadn't even taken his board exam yet. And it was like scheduled to be in a couple weeks from when we talked. And I was like, well, I'll just kind of like do this as a favor within the company, and I'll interview him. And as soon as he walked into the door, I was like, I'm hiring this kid. Like, he better pass his test. Like, I just knew. And so it's just kind of this fun thing of like, I don't know, recognizing personalities that are all going to fit and work well together. So I took on John, this new grad that had never worked a day in his life. And he has just done amazing things with his PT career so far. And he was like a joy to work with. And I passed by some other people that filled out the application process that had 10 years of experience, to just take a risk on him. And it was like one of the coolest things ever. And then to throw in even more to the mix, COVID happened in 2020 and Nike shut down my clinic, and because it was on campus. And so I didn't have anywhere to go or practice. So I started seeing a lot of my patients out of the clinic that Lyndsay was working out with Dave. And so then Lyndsay and I got to work in the same clinic together, and we had like this little like kind of square desk where all the PTs stand. And we are exactly opposite in how we stay organized throughout the day. And I think I literally drove Lyndsay mad because my entire desk and computer is just filled with sticky notes. And I have actually right now I have probably 35 tabs open on my computer. And that's right. Like, those are all my to-dos. That's how I remember. And Lyndsay shows up with her little planner day book, has one tab open, has time to make Rice Krispie treats for everyone. And I'm just like, what on earth? And she looks at me and she's like, what on earth? But it was fun to finally like be in person working together. And I feel like it kind of was a perfect trickle down effect where Dave was my mentor and then had hired Lyndsay. And then just through a weird circumstance of events, Lyndsay and I got to work closely together, and I got to probably maybe step into a little bit more of like a mentorship role, just to see like in our field, it still is sometimes rare to see women in like leadership roles, and especially when it comes to sports, physical therapy. So hopefully I was helpful in that. And I'm sure that like just COVID bringing me and a lot of the Bowerman athletes into their clinic was a good thing and meant to be. And now it's all full circle. So that's my kind of condensed
I mean,
version.
That's perfect. And I appreciate that you brought up the sticky notes, because the sticky notes stressed me out, but in so many more ways, Colleen like de-stressed me during COVID, which was like an incredibly stressful time when she had just lost her clinic. I was trying to manage a clinic. And we just had a lot of fun. I mean, I'd known of Colleen for many years through Dave, and had really admired her work ethic. And like Colleen said, there's not a lot of female PTs in the world of sports PT. And so I continue to look up to Colleen in many, many ways, but am just very impressed by what she continues to do with her runners and working in the professional athlete setting. So we worked together for, I don't know, maybe 2 years, probably actually like 2 years. And then probably, right?
Yep.
I think so. And then, Colleen.
I don't even remember the timeline. It probably felt like 2 years, but it probably was like a year.
It probably was. It was probably 2 months.
COVID timing. Timing.
But then Colleen,
2 weeks, and no,
she took a full-time position with Bowerman, which was the coolest thing to watch probably ever, and has just been crushing it with that team. So since then I no longer work for that clinic in Portland, and Colleen's no longer with the company as well. So I now work solely in Park City, Utah, and Colleen is in Park City, Utah about, I don't know, half the time of the year, maybe a little bit less with the team. And so since then we've created, along with David McHenry, who Colleen mentioned earlier, who's the PT for UAC, and then Dan White, who's the PT for U of O track and field and cross country. The four of us have created this kind of network of PTs that work specifically with runners and elite level of runners through what we call the PACE Academy. And so Colleen and I still get to interact quite a bit. And we work together, maybe even more closely now than we did when we were working alongside each other in the clinic and seeing kind of our own caseloads. But it's super fun. So that's how we ended up to where we're at now.
Let's talk about the Female Runner Summit that you guys are putting on. What was the inception of this idea, and how did you guys, I mean, there's so much we can cover within this, as I'm sure we will, but just starting us out here, inception of the Female Runner Summit.
Well, as the PACE Academy, Lyndsay and I teach a course to PTs called the Female Runner. And it was mainly directed to try to just help educate PTs in just some of the nuances of working with female athletes, whether they be young female athletes or female athletes going through like pregnancy or coming back from like having a child. And so we teach a course to other PTs, and we were really hoping that the more information that PTs get, the more that they could pass on to the athletes they're seeing. And we started to realize that a lot of the PTs we were talking to do have like a large amount of their population are high school athletes. And then in Bowerman's moved to Eugene, I've gotten to work closely with Dan White, and I'm on all the sports medicine calls for U of O. And it just started to become more apparent to me, and some of the things we're talking about is that like just bone density issues, injuries, stress fractures, like huge things that are like life altering in the long, like grand scheme of things, were just still so prevalent, like especially at the college level. And I know this is widespread throughout the country at every college. And I just started to think more and more. I was like, okay, like, I don't know if our female runner class talking to BTs is really enough. And like, as most runners know, you have your best ideas out on a run. And I was just out on a run, and I was just thinking, like, what can I do more? Like, what could we do more? And like, we have this cool platform, and it was meant to be mainly just for PTs. But I was driving to Flagstaff to meet up with the team for altitude camp and called Lyndsay, and I was like, I have an idea, and explained to her my idea of just like, can we get like more direct to the source? Can we like create like a retreat of some sort for high school runners where they can interact with us and then some other key speakers? And can we teach them like directly some of the skills and give them some of the knowledge that could be like life-changing for them? So we've all been there. We've been that age. We've been athletes at that age. And it's really hard to conceptualize at that point in time that some of the decisions you're making are going to affect you potentially in a very negative way in your 30s, in your 40s. And like, I'm 40, I'm going to be 41 in August, and I am outside active every day, mountain biking and trail running. And I went through this, and I wasn't even in the sport of running. I was in soccer. And, you know, I made some very poor decisions in my early 20s that luckily I didn't suffer any injuries from, but was like very underfueling myself for my activity level, and lost my menstrual cycle for a huge amount of time. And just even in my early 20s, didn't realize the impact that it could have on me at this point in my life. And just in being on some of the sports medicine calls and seeing like how many young athletes have bone density issues at like age 18, if that gets too far, that can be irreversible. And we can play a huge role as PTs in stopping that and recognizing it early and getting the education to the athletes that this can be reversible. And this is not something that you want to be dealing with when you're in your late 30s and early 40s. So that's kind of how it started. And Lyndsay just like loved the idea and was super supportive right away. And we kind of got to work on building up like, you know, what's going to be our target audience and who we want to have speak. And yeah, I'll let Lyndsay kind of add in any of her thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. We wanted to take what we were applying to healthcare providers and go straight to the source. And Colleen and I both felt like there was a void in how do we take this information and actually get it to these younger athletes. I was similar to Colleen. I, was banged up and injured in high school because I just didn't know. I lost my menstrual cycle for a bit. I just didn't know. And had I been given those resources, who would have known? Like, could I have ran in college? Maybe. Was I too injured to run in college? Absolutely. I lost my whole junior season to a stress fracture, which, as anyone knows, in high school, that's like a crucial year for you to be looked at by schools. So yeah, we wanted to take our info and bring it straight to the source. And we also wanted to make it fun and bring in some really cool speakers. We've got some really cool like athletes who are going to come and hang out with the participants that weekend. We want it to be very collaborative in a space that sometimes can feel very isolating and scary when you just don't know. So we're super excited about it. We want this to be, an event that happens annually and grows and gains more traction, to just really spread the word of how we can better support female runners.
Something I want to ask both of you as you guys are creating this summit and putting together information that you know so well into kind of a package to a younger audience is you guys didn't grow up with social media, which you should be grateful for. I'm not grateful for it at all. Growing up in this era, I'm a little worried. But like scrolling on Instagram Reels and TikTok, as I admittingly do from time to time, just as you guys are putting out positive information, there is, I mean, the wildest stuff. And specifically, like we've seen studies where they've linked depression and hopelessness and even eating disorders to use on social media. And it specifically is higher in female adolescents. Can you kind of speak to the role that social media, at least as much as you know, has played, and also the other side, and kind of feeling a duty to come out with information that's actually correct and true? And also just like the whole comparison piece, right? Like females are only posting the perfect picture, right? No one's posting stuff that's actually real and honest. Same thing with athletic careers. People post when they make the Olympics. They don't post 3 months before when they're like in the depths of it all, don't think they're even going to line up. Can you kind of speak to some of those aspects?
Yeah, I think the social media piece is huge, and it's a double-edged sword. It's like you said, there's a lot of information out there that has been linked to some like, really sad and kind of horrible things. And there's definitely a shift that you can see in the younger generation with just everything that they have access to see. And I didn't even have a cell phone until like my sophomore or junior in college. And that was like when Facebook was only open to college kids and you had to log in on a desktop. So we sat in the computer lab to look at Facebook. So I didn't really experience that same thing at that age, but in just seeing that now, I always like go back and forth, like maybe I just get off social media entirely. But then on the flip side, I think there is a piece where it is a part of like our culture. And can we also get some really good information out there? Can we like this class, like, can we maybe target some high school athletes that are struggling, and that this camp could be really helpful for, and a really unique opportunity. And so just trying to provide like the information and get it out there and have a more positive light. I think we could like touch a lot of people, but yeah, like you said, it's hard because comparison is the thief of all joy. And when we have everyone's day to day right in our face, and it's usually just the good stuff, it's hard to make like the right decisions for you. And I think like for me growing up, I never had like any issues with fueling or eating enough for soccer, but there's a piece when you get to like a competitive level and you're surrounded by a team more consistently. So like when I got to college, it just like, it's normal to be competitive, and you just try to be like, okay, how do I get a starting spot? Like, what are all the things that are in my control? And the same with running, like soccer, there's a huge skill piece to it. And like, you may be only to develop your skills to such a level, and running is like less of a skill, but there's like physiological pieces that at some point you do kind of reach your individual cap. So then you just start searching other sections of like control, like what can I control? And a lot of times fueling or over exercising are the things that are easiest to grasp to. And it's understandable in the fact that most athletes are competitive and want to do that, and it's from a drive. But then, like when all you're seeing is just like, people either extremely thin, you don't know the ins and outs of their day. Like, are they actually depressed? Are they happy? Are they doing well in school? Are they like just enjoying life? And I think it can be challenging even when the young girls look at like some of the pros and just see how they look. They don't know that it's just, some of it is natural genetics, and that they've been running like at a very high level for years and years and years. And they don't know that behind all that, most of them are like eating a ton. Like there's some days where I kind of just wish that I could like take my camera around and like do the whole day, every meal, because I've had the opportunity to live with a lot of the girls on the team, just with altitude camps and different things. And it is like astonishing at like how much they like are just on it and like fuel and eat consistently. But from the outside, if you only see a picture and you're young and you just don't understand that, you might just be like, oh, I need to exercise more or eat less to look a certain way. And that social media without that like explanation, I think is where it gets a little dangerous.
Yeah, I think Colleen and I are kind of in a unique situation because we live a bit in a bubble where we work with and have lived with like professional athletes that we get to see firsthand how much they care for their bodies when it comes to like recovery and eating enough. I mean, Colleen said it perfectly. Like, these pros eat a ton, even if it's not reflected on the picture that someone takes and is posted on Instagram. So we get the privilege of working with these athletes and seeing how much work goes in behind the scenes for them to show up on the start line. But it is very easy as a young high school athlete and younger to see those pictures and make assumptions and try to make their body look that way, that how that ever that runner looks. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's obviously positives to social media, and you know, in a place where Colleen and I didn't go to school to do anything with Instagram ever, we need to embrace it and try to just do the best that we can to put out positive information, knowing that there's going to be negative information out there too. But you know, the most that we can do is try to practice what we preach and demonstrate to others, you know, these are the things that we know as female PTs in a female dominant you know, space or sport or those kind of things, and just promote positivity on social media, because the truth is it's not going anywhere, and it is in the hands of any young female runner multiple times a day. So yeah, we can just do the best that we can do in that space.
A question for both of you that's unique. Lyndsay, I'll start with you. Can you speak to the specific age group that you're targeting? This camp and summit is for juniors and seniors in high school. Why that specific age group? How'd you guys come up with that? And how excited are you to work with 11th and 12th graders?
Yeah. I mean, we had a lot of conversation around this in really positive ways. We were kind of trying to think back to when we were in high school, and you know, leaders that we looked up to in team sports. For Colleen, that was soccer. For me, it was running. And you know, it was always the juniors and seniors that you turned to set examples, to be team leaders, to be nominated captains. So we wanted to reach out to those individuals, specifically, you know, juniors and seniors that we felt might be able to take this information and directly impact their team. So we wanted to reach out to the older girls. We also wanted to reach out to the older girls that were maybe seriously considering running in college. And we know that that is also a place, like Colleen said, working with collegiate athletes, where we see a lot of bone injuries and REDs and loss of menstrual cycles. So how do we capture this audience that can be directly impactful to the team environment that they're in right now as a high school athlete? But then how do we capture an audience that has potential or desire to run beyond high school, and give them the resources and the tools so they don't get sucked into, you know, the college vortex of you know, dangerous eating habits and things like that. So we wanted to target juniors and seniors. Colleen and I have also had discussion too that we'll probably open up the camp to freshmen and sophomores that are really interested and feel like maybe they have a leadership role in their team. And we'll have people just reach out to us via email if they're interested as freshmen and sophomores. Because we want to grow this camp so that it includes female athletes all across high school at some point. But really, we're trying to cater to those leaders within the team environment first.
I love that. I love that. Colleen, for you, as if you two weren't reason enough to go to the summit, can you fill out some of the guest speakers and guests that will be coming? I remember when you first sent me information about this, seeing Diljit's name, and I was like, you guys got a good one. You guys got a good one. Someone who'll put a smile on your face and knows a lot about the sport and has had a lot of success in it. Can you speak to kind of being meticulous in who you're inviting and the individuals you're most excited to have on board with this mission and impacting this group of people?
Yeah, we have a good lineup. As you mentioned, we wanted to get a coach representative, so we have Diljit Taylor. She's going to come and speak to the camp attendees, which is going to be awesome. She's obviously done such a good job with the BYU women's program, and just in the space of coaching and sports, it's just nice to have like female leadership examples to look up to. So yeah, we're super excited to have her speak to the girls. And then Lyndsay and I are obviously going to be speaking, and we are going to talk a little bit about PT, but we're going to do a cool segment, and we are going to get them into the local gym in Park City, and we're going to do a weightlifting session and show them that, one, like, it's not, you don't have to be intimidated, especially as a young female athlete, to go into the gym, where sometimes going into a public gym can be really intimidating. We're going to try to take that fear away a little bit. And then also just the fear of like not knowing what to do or lifting heavy weights. So we're going to do a fun session in the weight room. Plus, we're going to show them some awesome runs in the area as well. And then we have a local sports nutritionist, Kayla, who's going to be speaking on like how to put meals together. We are going to she's going to help us design like the right ratios of carbs, protein, and fats for the breakfast in the morning. And it's going to be very interactive, where the camp participants will wake up, and we're going to kind of give them goals of like, we have this on the docket today for activity. That's going to probably require roughly this many carbs. Let's shoot for this in protein. And there's going to be a few options where then they can design the meal that's going to have like those right ratios and right amounts. And so she's going to present and talk to the girls and really give them a lot of information that they can hopefully like take home, and maybe even like some good recipe examples. And then we have my really good friend Keely Henninger, who is starting med school, and she has been a part of some really awesome research papers on relative energy deficiency. And we are going to have her speak. She's going to be about to start med school, so she's going to video in, where the other speakers are going to be live. And she's going to talk a little bit about on her research and some of the data, and just more information for the campers to have on proper fueling amounts for different activity levels. And we're going to have athlete guests also. Some of the athletes are still to be determined, but like we have Courtney Frericks committed so far, silver medalist in the steeplechase and American record holder in the steeplechase. So she's going to be speaking, and we're going to have a few other guest appearances. We're just waiting on just to kind of see how the season goes for everyone first before we lock those in. But it should be pretty fun. And if a few of them can't do in person, then we'll probably do a few video calls through. And all the athletes, female athletes, professionals that we've talked to so far are super excited to be a part in any way they can. And I think that's it. Am I forgetting anyone, Lyndsay?
Oh, no? That's it.
Okay. Yeah. So that's our kind of speaker lineup. And I think it's going to provide a lot of information, and there's going to be a lot of interaction in the camp, so that these are skills that they learn and can take home and do on their own. And so it won't be a lot of just sit and listen. It's going to be a lot of like listen and do. And that's how you get through the camp, is like making your meals, packing your lunches, having our recovery shake 30 minutes in that window after a run, learning how to get in the gym, and going on some cool runs and talking to some of the athletes.
We mentioned that this camp is for juniors and seniors, although freshmen and sophomores, if you're listening and persuasive enough, maybe Lyndsay and Colleen, up to their discretion. Write a persuasive email. Don't use ChatGPT, as we're talking about social media and all the new things that kids have. Can you speak directly to the audience, of which many are high school females? Who are you looking for? Who do you want to see there? And just like what are some points you think that would make an athlete want to come? Things you guys are excited about, and the people you want to see here. And also, just like, as you guys were talking about, you want to form leaders who can then impact their team, or kids listening, maybe they can't go or don't want to go, but they know a leader on their team that they'll pass this podcast on to. Like the importance of having that central figure on the team who can take this information that you teach, and then, it can affect them well into November or even, December if you're running Foot Locker or NXN.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we'd love to. I mean, honestly, anyone who this sounds like they would have fun at, we are stoked to have. But we're definitely looking for the athletes that are just like super motivated and in love with running and want to become like the best that they can be at running. And like, obviously, if you have aspirations for college, even better, but it doesn't have to be that. If you just want to learn more about running, if you want to learn more about just like taking care of yourself as an athlete, and just learning how to like progress yourself in the sport, this camp is for you. And we just want people to bring a lot of excitement, a lot of willingness to learn, people that are willing to be open and vulnerable about struggles that they have maybe had. It's going to be a completely judgment-free space, and we're just here to help. And it's okay if you're struggling with these things. And I think that getting a group of people together, especially women, when they can all talk about their struggles openly. I will definitely talk about mine. So it's not something for anyone to be scared of. So I guess we also might be looking for some athletes that might be struggling and just need resources and don't know where to go or who to talk to. But yeah, that's who we're looking for. And like we said, people that maybe can pass on the information as a trickle down effect to other people on their team, and a good role model. And so if any coaches are listening to this, we have on our website a link for a coach nomination for an athlete. We're working to be able to provide a few spots under scholarship. And so we'll take a look at some of those coaches nominations. So that might be for like a special athlete or someone that may not be able to financially afford the camp, but still wants to come. We're trying to make that accessible to as many people as we can. And we have some good sponsors that have stepped behind us to help us with that. Yeah, Lyndsay, what do you think? I guess we also, the dates of the camp are August 15th through 18th. We didn't say that yet. We tried to find a time. It's hard because every school starts at different times, but we tried to find a time in the summer before athletes got into the chunk of their season, but they've probably been running so that it can kind of fit right into like hopefully a good send off heading into the fall cross country season.
Yeah, I mean, just to back up everything you said, Colleen, I mean, there's no specific person that we want, and we're not going to exclude anyone, of course. We really just want the athlete that wants to show up and prioritize their health and kind of optimize this window in high school of how can they be the best version of themselves for not only their career, but also, to support their teammates who maybe they know are struggling with some of these some of these topics that we're going to touch on. Or maybe it's the athlete who's like, hey, we're not really doing a strength program in our season right now. I want to come and learn some things and then take them back to the camp. Or, those like meals that you do as a team prior to a big meet. Like we want the athlete that's like, I'm always the person who's cooking, but I want some cool recipes to show my team prior to us having state or NXN. And so I want to show up
not
and I
just
want to get
spaghetti.
Some good, not just spaghetti. Like those are the athletes that we want, that are excited. They want to take what they learn and not only help their team, but also help themselves. So yeah, like Colleen said, the dates are August 15th through the 18th. We've got some really, really cool people showing up and helping put this event on. And coaches, like Colleen said, if there's any athlete that you want to nominate or you feel like would be, an awesome addition to this camp, or maybe couldn't financially afford the camp otherwise, send in your nominations. This is something that for Colleen and myself is like a huge passion project. And again, we just want to reach more female runners in a space that maybe Colleen and I felt like we didn't know who to turn to during this phase in our life when we were both struggling with these issues ourselves. In high school, when I was injured and banged up and not having a menstrual cycle, I didn't know what to do, despite me having a really supportive team, a really supportive family, and a really supportive coach. And so I sat out and I was in a boot for 6 weeks and then was in a boot again because I got re-injured. And we just want to give resources, to give access to those female runners, but put it in a really fun environment and create a collaborative experience for years to come.
I do want to share details for people who are interested in signing up for the camp. Can you, one, direct people where they can sign up and learn more about this? I'll also leave a link to that in the show notes so people can scroll down as I'm rambling here. And two, for you both individually, any things that you guys put out that you want to direct people to that you think would be beneficial, not just in their training and racing, but also in their life?
Yeah, so they can, the paceacademy.com, which will be linked, is our registration page. And when you get to that main page, there should be a little pop-up that pops up, and it will be a link. There's like a link for coaches that want to do nominations, and then a registration link for athletes that are interested. So that's where you can go. The Pace Academy on Instagram promotes all of that as well. And then my personal Instagram, Strength is Speed, will repost that. And Lyndsay's Instagram, Stronger DPT, will repost that too. So those are other pages where you can look. I'm bad at Instagram, but every now and then I get on a kick and have useful things on my page. So if you just as a high school runner want other useful information, you could go check it out, and maybe I'll be on a good kick here and there. Lyndsay also has good resources. So yeah, and the camp too is it's located in Park City, Utah, which is a beautiful place to come visit, a beautiful place to run, and we are definitely open to anyone across the country who wants to come. Its flight into Salt Lake is super easy. We'll help arrange transportation up to Park City, which is just about 35 minutes. So we don't want anyone to be discouraged like it's this big, long travel day up to the mountains. And we have a beautiful home that everyone will be staying in up in Deer Valley. So we're trying to make it like a pretty luxurious kind of like boutique, awesome experience.
Bougie, as the kids say.
Yeah. And exactly. And we have some great sponsors. So there's going to be some Nike swag bags, Garmin discounts, probably Kodiak Cakes throwing us some good pancakes, and it should be a fun weekend.
Yeah, I'll just to reiterate what Colleen said, the paceacademy.com is where you can go to register. If the pop-up doesn't pop up under courses, you'll see the Female Runner Summit, and that will take you directly to the link for registration and nominations for coaches. The Pace Academy, our Instagram page, it's the.pace.academy, is where we're always posting about things. And it's not just our classes. Like we'll be posting while we're all at the trials this upcoming week, which is always fun. We're always just wanting to like interact with our audience. So the Pace Academy Instagram page is a great place to go. Colleen puts up amazing stuff, strength is speed, from a strengthening standpoint. And then my page, Stronger DPT, is like a little more kind of like pelvic health, pregnancy, postpartum. But yeah, I mean, all three of those resources are a great place to go. And I will say, if anyone messages us directly, we see those messages as well, especially through the Pace Academy. We're always interacting with people through direct messages. So don't hesitate to reach out via Instagram or info at thepaceacademy.com for email as well, if there's questions that come up.
I love this. I love the idea. Colin, we're texting back and forth about this. I have no doubt it's gonna, I don't know if go big is the right terminology. I don't quite know what that means, but I have no doubt that 10 years from now, this will be so much bigger than this conversation. So I do kind of want to use this. It's kind of a bookmark. We're talking almost, I mean, the camp will be going on exactly 2 months from now. So kind of a unique stage. First time, you guys are, I'm sure, both going to learn more and probably come back in 4 years and be like, we did this, and this wrong, and here's what we're doing better.
Yep.
So I think it's a unique period to talk about the growth and inception of this idea. So in like 60 seconds or less, both of you, what is your vision for this, and why are you so excited about this specific summit and camp and what it can be one day? And that's not to say the first year isn't going to be incredible. Incredible.
No, it's going to be a work in progress. And like sometimes with these things, like big ideas, you have to take the leap and take the risk, and it might flop and fail, but I don't think that's going to stop us. So like, let's just say the camp doesn't mean we're not going to do it again. So I'm like really passionate about this, and I really do think that it can take off. And I think it's a really unique resource. And like, there's a quote that kind of sticks by me about kind of like why I want to do this and why I'll keep trying to do this and like make it successful. It's because like I've been given this unique opportunity to work with the Bowerman team and have these resources, and I don't want them to be kept to myself. And the quote that I really like kind of stand by is, the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. And that's what I would like to come across to the camp. And why we're doing this is because I've been given a gift, and it's not meant for me to hold alone. It's meant to give away, and to be able to bring young athletes into these like situations with professional athletes and professional speakers is just so unique. And we want to just like open the door so that becomes easier for them to do.
Yeah. I mean, Colleen said it beautifully. I think her and I have both been given really unique situations where we have the privilege to interact with the best of the best on a daily basis. And, there's nothing special about Colleen and I besides the fact that we work really hard, but we also just love what we do. And I think that we don't want to gatekeep and keep the information that we have, the resources that we have, the access to, these top tier classes that we get to work with every day, we don't need to keep that to ourselves. We would rather take that information and share it with others who are maybe in a space where they need it a little bit more than Colleen and I do on any given day. So again, this is like a passion project for us. We're not going anywhere, even if for some reason we don't get the camp full entirely this year. It just gives us more of a reason to turn around and hustle even more next year. So we're going to stick around and continue to show up for our female athletes and show up for women in sports medicine, and continue to do everything that we can to provide as much resource and as much information to those that we can.
I love it. Okay. One final question for you guys, kind of light, maybe serious, depending. This will probably release the week of the trials. So I'm going to ask you a trials related question for those listening who have stuck with us this far. Non-team or husband related. So no conflict of interest. Any hot take? One hot take for the race.
Hot take. Which event?
Yeah.
Anything that's not like Bowerman related.
Anything that's not Bowerman related. Oh man.
Meaning like you can't be like Sean's going to make it in the 5K because that's naturally their coach is going to say that.
Yeah. I mean, I think Elle Turrier is on a big kick. I think she's out here to make 2 teams in the 15 and the 5. And it's pretty cool just on this whole female athlete kick of I'm going to have a kid. I'm coming back and I'm going to come back even better than I was before. So that's my hot take, non-Bowerman related.
Hot take. Non-husband related too, so I won't speak to that. I mean, I also am like a huge Kate Grace fan right now. I mean, who isn't? Like, kind of similar to like Elle, it's like you just love to see these moms who step away and, you know, do the thing and then they come back even stronger. And I think like, you know, I've been able to spend some time with Kate too while she was in Park City for a brief stint, but like just the hunger and the drive that these women after having kids come back with. I mean, you can't not sit here and support those gals. So hot take is Kate Grace is going to do something.
I love it. Colleen and Lyndsay, thank you so much for the conversation and more importantly for what you're doing. This is so awesome. I wish this was a resource back in high school that I could forward teammates to. So thank you. I mean, Colleen, that quote was so spot on. I absolutely love it. Thank you for your service to those in the running community and beyond. And I'm going to be here being a cheerleader, being a fan, excited to see what happens August 15th through 18th and excited to support and follow along the journey.
Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate, I know this is kind of not like always on your exact path of what you do on the podcast, like helping to promote, but we really, really appreciate it. And just, you've done such a wonderful job with this platform. And so you're the first person I thought of with just the growth and the outreach you've been able to get. So we definitely really appreciate your time and having us on.
Yeah. And just continue to, you know, in this space, like continue to inspire young athletes, Dom, and, you know, show up and continue to put out amazing content for them. And Colleen and I are so appreciative of you spreading the word and promoting what we're excited about too.